What's poppin', everybody? It's your boy, Snowy Kurama, and welcome to LBL Games of the Week, Week 3 with your host, Snowy Kurama, if you don't know what this is. First, hello, hi, you have 3 episodes to watch, including this one, so you have 2. But if you want to recap, I am here to show you the best games in each of 3 skill-based divisions, in my opinion, that happened during Week 3. I apologize for the lateness of this episode. We are currently on week 6, fun fact, and this is week 3, but I've had a lot of things to go that's been going on in life, so I'm going to try to crank out these episodes as fast as I can to catch up. So if you guys are hyped and excited for the return of LBL Games of the Week, press that like and that subscribe, of course only if you want to, but it does help me get off my ass and start making videos to know that people really want to watch this stuff. So let's go ahead and get to our dice. Once again, 1 and what was it? 1 and 4 is midnight, 2 and 5 is midday, and then 3 and 6 is dusk. Let's see. We are going with 5, which is we're starting with midday. I don't remember any of these games, if I'm being honest, but I did review them slightly recently. But this week is the GOAT Sound of Snow versus Whelmed, aka My Adorable, on here. I think I want to switch sides for this one. So, let's see what leads. I mean, Silly Deancy looks pretty good, probably. And Whelmed might, honestly, if you see a Samurott, that's likely the lead. So Snow might go Terapagos if it takes one, Raikou to threaten it out with super effective, and then it could be Serena to threaten super effective. Deancy can too, but Whelmed has the Aqua Cutter. So let's go ahead and just take a look. Do we want to keep it on normal? Yeah, we want to keep it on normal. We see a Garchomp coming out on Snow's side, probably to set up some rocks, maybe some spikes. And then we have the Samurott, like I was saying, on Whelm's side. Knockoff doing a lot of damage. We see Rocky Helmet, which is kind of crazy because it does damn near half of the Garchomp. So either Garchomp is not very bulky, or this Samurott is stupid strong. It's one of the two. EQ comes out, almost takes out the Samurott. It's like, what is its name again? Almost takes out the Samurott. Unfortunately, it went for Aqua Cutter rather than the Ceaseless Edge, which I think would have been better because then you get up some spikes. But then again, that does invite in the Terapagos, and it doesn't seem like Whelmed has a super duper great way to take care of Terapagos, outside of maybe Thunder Waving it with the Registeel, or hopefully taking some hits with the Annihilate. I mean, it blocks the Star Storm, I suppose, so there's that. But Samurott goes down. Garchomp is just about ready to get knocked out as well. We see a U-turn coming off from the Annihilate. I don't know if abilities like Rough Skin help with the Rage Fist, but if it does, then that is a free 100 base power Rage Fist that Whelmed just has now off that Garchomp, which is nuts. So we see the Donphan in here, probably to spin away these rocks, and then we see Raikou here. Let's see, what do we... Maybe let's try slow. We see a Terra Grass, probably to... Oh, goes for Calm Mind instead of the Terra Blast. We do see the Rapid Spin, which was... It's what was going to happen. Terra Blast happens now. We see a Sturdy coming off. That's probably why Snow went ahead and pressed the Calm Mind first. But we see a nice timed Roar from Whelm's side, which is pretty good. Moltres gets the kill with a U-turn. It seems to be the theme of this battle. Grass Raikou comes back out. We see a Registeel probably trying to Thunder Wave. Moltres comes on in. Do we see Rocks instead? We see Amnesia to boost. I remember this game now. This game is not going to be slow the whole time. Flamethrower comes out against the Ursaluna, which might have been really cool to to proc the Guts with the Flamethrower, but we do see that Guts wasn't procced with a Flame Orb, so it's possible that the Ursaluna is bulletproof. Raikou gets Aura Sphere, so I wouldn't be surprised. I don't think Moonblast is blocked by the bulletproof, even though a lot of people think it should. I don't think it matters. Actually, it's a way to resist Fairy. Yeah, let Moonblast get blocked by bulletproof. Either way, we see a burned Ursaluna on the Whelm side from the Moltres on Snow's side. And Rock Tomb does not too much, considering it's super effective ×4 off of a burned Ursaluna. So this thing is for sure bulletproof, unless she wanted to run the Unnerve. We see Rock Tomb again, lowering Serena's speed stat. I don't think it made Ursaluna faster, but we do see a Registeel switch and a Moltres switch calling that Registeel. We see Ursaluna coming back out, Flamethrower doing a small chunk that we saw earlier. Pressing that U-turn, getting that nice chip off of a Ursaluna that cannot recover. Serena comes in, Ice Punch. The Rita's there, but you're burned and you're probably defensive. We see a U-turn again, instead of a Trop Kick or a Power Whip that I feel like I would have meant for. Besides, Ursaluna's not doing much. Maybe Sinnoh was predicting the Registeel. Either way, we see Ursaluna go down, and Indeedee comes in to take its place. Probably hit off with a strong Expanding Force. Goes Terra Psychic, even, for a strong Expanding Force. I should probably take a look at the Terra types. We see Diancie coming on in, probably going to Terra itself. Nope, but it does tank that hit. Goes for a Moonblast to try to get that special attack drop, probably. Expanding Force goes ahead and gets rid of the Diancie, but that's kind of okay for Snow, considering that he is wearing down the Psychic Terrain turns. Terapagos comes on in, probably to get off a Starstorm. Registeel comes in. How much is that Starstorm doing? It is doing not shit to the Registeel, as could be predicted. Moltres comes on in, we see ROB go for an Amnesia, forgetting all of its worries and raising its special defense. Is this the part? I think this Registeel just boosts and boosts and boosts, and we see the Moltres Roost. Nice little rhyme there. Iron Defense off of the Registeel. We're seeing some boosting happening. It's a shame that Registeel does not get stored power, otherwise this would be GG. That burn is very nice though. We see a Flamethrower trying to get some chip off, and I think this is the point where I'm just gonna throw the game on fast and pause it when I see something really cool. Flamethrower, Amnesia, we're just boosting. We are ×4. Yeah, ×4. That's what it says on the screen. And Whelmed is likely going to just keep stalling out. We see the rest, which means that burn didn't do fuck all. Flamethrower, we are really just seeing the stalling happening. A Body Press, which does an okay chunk to the Moltres. Body Press doing not too much considering the burn, and Whelmed could just press the rest to get rid of that, but there isn't really much of a reason in my opinion. But we do know that this thing has Roost. So, but that does work against Snow, considering that Moltres loses the the flying type that would resist. So it might be even better for Snow to not Roost. Anyway, this is kind of how it goes. I'll just skip turns here, I think. At one point, Snow does U-turn. Out into the Terapagos. We see an Earth Power. We see a Calm Mind trying to... Oh, we see him wake up from the rest. Snow counting the turns really good. And then we see a Will-O-Wisp burn, body press, not doing enough to the Moltres. Will he roost? He will roost. I kind of figured there'd be a body press there, but Amnesia's good too because she's got, what, 64 of those things? 32. Still a considerable amount. We see Terrapago switch in. I'm just skipping turns. And we see a Raikou switch in, finally. Moltres comes on in. I don't know if Snow's just making switches, but we see a Flame Body proc, which is kind of cool, I suppose. Amnesia. We just see more stats happening with stalling. It's just a war of attrition out here, folks. Some weaker-minded folk might give in and say, screw it, I've got other shit to do. But not these two. These two are 3-3, and they are here, and they are trying their hardest to get that W. See Moltres just roosting. Is that a crit? 70 points of damage. 70% is what I'm seeing on the Moltres. But it didn't say crit, so I don't know. Maybe there's just a max roll. Raikou comes out. We just see switches because they are free. Switches are free when you have a sleeping Registeel in front of you. Will-O-Wisps again, probably to sack this thing. Maybe Snow knew that he would rest. I don't know. You'd have to ask him, of course. Calm Mind. Oh, never mind. We saw something happening. We see a Calm Mind, and then we see a Wake Up Body Press Oko on the Raikou. See U-turn coming off, taking down 1 singular percent. Annihilate comes on out, so we see the Registeel finally just switching. Let's see. He's got 1 rest left, no body presses, so yeah. Whelm's only way to use the Registeel now is as a sack or to just play the stalling game until she gets struggle. But by then, I'm sure the rest will be gone. Anyway, we see Calm Mind. We see a close combat coming off doing not too much. I'm going to go back to the slow. We see Stored Power come off of the Terrapagos, Okoing the Annihilate. We see Indeedee coming out with the Psychic Terrain to boost the Stored Power. But Terra Starstorm happens, which, of course it would, because Indeedee resists. Then we see the Registeel coming out. We see Calm Mind, because you can tell by looking at the thing that it doesn't have any attacking moves left, so Snow is free to just boost up as much as he wants, so that he can get his KO. We'll just skip. Do it again. And we see the Stored Power not doing too much, but I mean, Whelm doesn't have really anything else that she can do. She's out of body presses, she's out of rests. It's really just, waiting for the end to come. And that is good game to Snow getting the 2-0. Good job to these two coaches in Midday. Okay, 1, 2, 3 is Midnight, 4, 5, 6 is Dusk. Let's go. Another 5. We're going to go ahead and watch the Dusk match next. Here we have Mars versus, it's Jeremy, but you see BS Ball A806. These are 2 Dusk coaches. Jeremy's going on a tear with his Raging Bolt Sun team combination. And Mars is not doing too bad himself with the Primarina. I remember seeing him getting some nice little tricky-doos with that there Zoroark, if that's what you agree to call that. Lycanroc Dusk is pretty good too with some priority, even though Jeremy's got some nice resists into rock, but I think that even though Iron Bundle has a good defense stat, it probably won't appreciate an Excel Rock of any kind. And then we have the Great Tusk here to get some Photosynthesis off of the Sun team here. I think we might see a Torkoal Probably not Torkoal. Maybe Gliscor Great Tusk. Let's check it out. Great Tusk and Torkoal, so I should have went with my instincts. We see the sun getting set up. We do see that Mars is a physically offensive Great Tusk set on his Great Tusk. We see the Stealth Rocks coming out. He's probably predicting that they just trade. We see a Rotom Heat coming in on the Corviknight, who just U-turns on out of there, probably into the bundle, into the Raging Bolt. I forgot to look at their Terra types. One moment, let's go ahead and see. So the Terra Captain on Jeremy's team, I believe, is just the Raging Bolt, which is a ground Raging Bolt. On Mars's team, we have a Fairy Great Tusk. Is that allowed? I wouldn't be surprised. A Flying Primarina, a Fairy Zoroark, a ground... I can't trust this. We're just gonna have to see when it comes to Mars. all of his Pokemon have Terra types. Anyway, this thing might Terra, or it might not. We see a Volt Switch getting off of the Raging Bolt. If he Terra'd right there, that would have just not hit it. We see a Calm Mind from the Raging Bolt, which is pretty good. I'm not sure exactly if this thing lives a Great Tusk hit, or if it outspeeds, or what. We see a Fairy Terra coming off of the Raging Bolt. I guess I was incorrect about the ground. That's probably because I was reading Mars for Jeremy and Jeremy for Mars. Oh, so looking back at that, it looks like I don't think he brought any of his Terra types. Unless he's bringing Stab Terra, which is definitely an option. We see a Terra Blast coming off of the Raging Bolt, probably OHKOing the Great Tusk. Yep, there it is. Dead Great Tusk, first blood to Jeremy. And he's got a +2 special attack of essentially Raging Bolt. LYCANROC Dusk comes out, Rock Slide OHKOs this thing right on back. That was a very risky Rock Slide from Mars, I think, because that could have missed, and Jeremy could have had 2 kills. Gliscor comes on in, probably going to Earthquake, maybe even knock off. He presses the Toxic button, knowing that he would not stay in with his weak to ground LYCANROC. We see the Protect, so that we can see what exactly the Rotom wants to do. We see a Screens Rotom. Pretty spicy. I think I've ran Screens Rotom once or twice. We see a very strong Overheat coming off in the sun. U-turn, and we might see a Screamtail. Yep, that's what I was figuring. We see the Photosynthesis Speed for Screamtail, probably to get up some hazards, maybe press Encore, so that Mars can only click the probably Overheat, right? Yep, and it's going to do only a small chunk to the Screamtail, but it's going to do even less the next turn because of the special attack drop that the Rotom has to incur in order to keep pressing that button. We see Primarina come out, we see a Wish coming off of the Screamtail, probably going into the Gliscor. Dazzling Gleam here just to see what Mars is going to do. We see a Flip Turn coming off into the Rotom Heat to click some electric buttons, probably. Maybe even a Will-O-Wisping the Screamtail, maybe even getting up a Scream. We see a Wish, and then an Overheat coming off. We're probably going to see an Encore, in which case Mars should switch on out of here. Yep, he does that. We see the Primarina, we see an Encore. We see a Dazzling Gleam, which still doesn't do a ton to the Primarina. Gleams again after getting a Wish. Sparkling Aria does not too bad of the damage, in my opinion, considering. We see a Wish, we see a Moonblast crit, and special attack drop. That is disrespectful. Corv comes on out. We might see a Flip Turn from this thing, we might see a Moonblast instead, or Sparkling Aria, which still does quite a bit to a Corviknight, who is now at damn near full thanks to the Wish. Rotom Heat comes on out. Do we see a U-turn? We see a Defog to get rid of the hazards on Jeremy's side of the field. Torkoal comes on out, maybe to get up his own rocks to take an overheat, which still does quite a bit of damage. So this Torkoal is either some sort of speedy variant or defensive. This thing is not sped up. Pre-Marina comes on out to take whatever fire hit. We do see the rocks coming out from Jeremy's side of the field. Corviknight comes on in. Do we see a Sparkling Aria? We do see a Sparkling Aria. That must have been a crit that the Pre-Marina got, because that did not do as much as did before. Brave Bird takes out the screen setting Rotom with overheat. Kind of sucks, because I don't know how else Mars takes care of this Corviknight. We see a Weavile coming on out, probably going to Trill Axle something, or maybe even knock off. We see a Bitter Malice. This is the Zoroark, KOing the silly little Screamtail. We have 3 more turns of Sun. The Gliscor comes on in, and we see a Protect coming off of there, and probably just another Bitter Malice. Maybe this thing is Specs. It could possibly be Scarf. We are not sure at this time. See a Torkoal coming in. It's going to die to a Bitter Malice, this thing for sure. Yep, we see Torkoal going down. And that is the end of Jeremy's Sun. But Jeremy doesn't have any more Sun Mons, so that was the obvious little sack there. A Protect from the Gliscor. We see a Hyper Voice. This thing is not choiced. I wonder if it did more than the Bitter Malice did, or maybe Mars was calling a sub of sorts. See an Earthquake coming off, and not entirely killing the Zoroark, but it does do a chunk, and it's going to die to this next Earthquake. See a Protect, we probably see a Bitter Malice as a Hyper Voice. Mars is convinced that this thing is going to click sub. U-turn coming off on the very low Gliscor into the Corviknight, which is not going to take very much from the Hyper Voice. So maybe we'll see a switch to Bitter Malice. Yes, we do. And it does a considerable chunk, but a Brave Bird is likely going to just take this thing out. Or we see a Roost. Better play, in my opinion. See a Nasty Plot coming off, but a Brave Bird is... Oh, nope. We see a Roost coming off. So I don't think that the Zoroark has enough firepower to take care of the Corviknight. He's obviously not packing Flamethrower, otherwise he would have went for it. Brave Bird ends up taking out the Zoroark, leaving the Corviknight at very low HP, which Weavile really, really likes. We might see a knockoff here. Yep, yes we do. And we see a Rocky Helmet, which is just even more chip for Jeremy, who still has a full HP Iron Bundle. Ice Shard comes off. Didn't do too much. We see a Hydro Pump, which destroys the Weavile. You saw how fast that HP bar went down. We have the Sparkling Aria guy here, missing an Hydro Pump. Do we see a Moonblast? Yes, we do. Comes close to taking out the Iron Bundle, but doesn't quite do it. Freeze Dry doesn't quite do it either, but we see a Freeze! We see the most unfair shit in the whole game. Freeze. So this Gliscor is just able to probably get back up to full, but he doesn't take that chance and goes for Earthquake instead. Then we see a Lycanroc coming out, probably dies to an Earthquake, because it's got nothing that can take on this Gliscor. You see Protect. You see an Accelerock, which he might be banded, so he has to go for a Accelerock against the this thing, Iron Bundle. Ends up sacking it off, of course, as we just saw. Maybe to get some more HP from this Gliscor, just in case he's not banded. You see a Protect. Probably going to see an Accelerock. Yep. So this thing is for sure choiced. And Jeremy's free to go for an Earthquake next turn. Oh! So if Jeremy didn't do all that finagling around a crit Accelerock, that probably would have been the game for him. But instead, it's a game for Mars. This went down to the wire. We see a very low Gliscor. I mean, you can see it on the screen, but, you know, very good game to these two Dusk competitors. Last, but most certainly not least, we have Resident Crackhead doesn't really do crack, but you'll see this game, and you'll see what I mean. Iger versus the GOAT Venice Canics. We have a good little Sun kind of team with Grafii being able to set up a Sunny Day if he so chooses. Another Iron Bundle team with a Skarm and a Grimmsnarl, just oof. Then we have Iger with the Annihilate. Holy shit. I was like, what's his name? In the very good Broken Iron Moth, we see a Jirachi as well, and an Acklestat coming in to play. So let's go ahead and get this midnight game on the road. See a Noivern coming out first. I did not try to predict at all, neither did I look at the Terra types. So Terra types, looks like we have a Dark type Knackle stack is it so far. And then on Venice's side we have, I don't know, maybe they just didn't do Terra. I don't know. See an Iron Bundle versus a Noivern. Noivern switches out to Belly Bolt. We have a Flip turn coming off with the Iron Bundle, and we get a Electromorphosis, that's the word, on the Belly Bolt, which is pretty good for the electric moves. Sub comes off on the Venusaur, pretty good. Volt Switch and doesn't break the sub, which would have been pretty cool for Iger. Jirachi comes out, probably to press the Iron Head, maybe even the Psychic move. Ends up Flash Cannoning instead. This might be a special variant of Jirachi. Do we see any sort of rocks, possibly? Just presses sub again. And we see a trick, which does not work because the sub is in the way. Maybe a Flash Cannon would have been better, but who can really predict? Who really knows? Earthquake does a sizable amount to the Jirachi. We see a Future Sight coming off, which would definitely break that sub. So, okay, I would have thought that well, actually, let's see. Earthquake does 36. Yeah, Jirachi would not have lived for that. Okay. So my initial thought was to press Flash Cannon to get rid of the sub, and then the Venusaur will take a considerable hit from the Future Sight, but it seemed... Nope, Future Sight wouldn't have even happened yet. I don't know what I'm saying. My bad. We see a Noivern. Earthquake coming out. Noivern is immune, of course. Super Fang to get rid of that pesky sub. We see a Toxic coming off of the Venusaur. And then a very deadly Future Sight, taking this thing down to half HP. Grimmsnarl comes on in. I don't know what we see from the Noivern. A Draco Meteor to try to take out the Venusaur, but, you know, fairy types don't really get hit by dragons. Knacklestat comes on out here against the Grimmsnarl. We see some screens. We see some screen action coming out. Grafii is here. Knacklestat goes Terra Dark to prevent the prankster moves from the third of Venice's team. Goes ahead and Salt Cures. We see a Jirachi coming back out here. A knockoff to kill the Jirachi, who had a Lagging Tail to trick, which is pretty cool. We see the Noivern coming out, probably to press the Boom Burst button. A U-turn happens. We might see the Grimmsnarl again. We see the Skarmory this time, who gets not hit by a Super Fang. Very unfortunate for Iger. Goes out into Belly Bolt. We'll see if a Brave Bird happens. It's instead of Stealth Rock. We're probably going to see some electric move coming out here. Maybe we will see something else. We see a Volt Switch to do very little to this Venusaur. And a Noivern coming on out. We see that it is Heavy Duty Boots. And we see that Venice's Venusaur is the Black Sludge, which we kind of could have seen earlier. Defog gets rid of all of the extra stuff. And then there's a Leech Seed coming out just to gain some more HP for Venice's Venusaur. Roost comes on out, and we might see a sub from the dinosaur here. Yep. Then a Roost. And we're probably going to see, we see a Leech Seed, probably predicting that the Noivern would want to switch out into something else. Do we see a possible Draco? We see Annihilate coming out here. We see a Leech Seed missing. Very good for Iger. Little annoying for the Venusaur. We see a Noivern coming on out. And then a Toxic, which is a very good play on his part, because the Annihilate would not really appreciate the Toxic. Super Fang kills the Venusaur's sub, but it's at it's going to be at full after this, so he can afford to just sub up again if he wants. Super Fang takes it down to 50%, probably went ahead and subbed anyway. We see he's at 26, which means he could have subbed one more time if he needed to. And the Noivern's probably going to die here, and if not here, then after some rocks go up, we see a Draco Meteor go off. And then we see a Leech Seed try to go. Does he have any sort of offensive move on this Venusaur, or is it all just status? We see Earthquake, so yeah, that was really all he could do against the Noivern. We see Venus still having all 6 of his Mons, and they're all at a pretty decent HP. 52 on Venusaur is still pretty decent considering it's got recovery. And Iger's over here with 2 down, and it's not looking very good in that sense. But all of his Pokemon that are remaining are still at a pretty good HP stat, so it's not over just yet. Iron Moth comes out, even though we did see that the Venusaur has Earthquake. But it still scares it out nonetheless. Can't Toxic things, can't Leech Seed on stuff. We see a Volcanion coming out here. Do we see a Quiver coming off of Iger's side, or did he just straight up go Fire move? We see a Sludge Wave, which is still pretty decent in the team outside of these Skarms, so not bad. Volcania, Knucklestack comes on in on the Steam Eruption, taking it pretty decently. Grafaiai comes in. I think we see Assault Cure here. Yep, for some residual, and Volcanion would not have appreciated that, as it is a Fire type and a Water type, so it would have taken a lot of damage. Annihilate comes on in. We see a knockoff coming out for the Expert Belt, which means Annihilate's not doing as much damage as it could be doing. Very unfortunate. See a Toxic coming off of the Grafaiai, and a Rage Fist, which does not affect Grafaiai. Maybe Iger was assuming that he would be fearing like a Drain Punch or something. Or maybe he forgot that this thing's a normal type. I don't know. You'll have to ask him. U-turn on out, we see a boosted Rage Fist to probably 150. Skarmory comes in, we see a Rage Fist doing damn near nothing to that Skarmory. Must be physically defensive, and there's also a Rocky Helmet. Iron Moth comes in, do we see a Stealth Rocks? Yep, from the Skarmory. I knew it was going to be either rocks or spikes. Skarmory goes down from the Fiery Dance, and we see a +1 on the Iron Moth. We are not out of this game yet on Iger's side, folks. Volcanion will probably die, yep, to the boosted Sludge Wave, as it was doing a lot of damage before. Iron Bundle comes out. We see probably a Hydro Pump. See Belly Bolt. The Hydro Pump hits the Belly Bolt, and we get the Electromorphosis off. And then Grimmsnarl comes in. Do we see a Discharge? Maybe, okay, a Volt Switch, which is boosted by the Electromorphosis, which does quite a bit of damage to the Grimmsnarl. It's gotta be in range of the Sludge Wave now. See a Paralyzed, and we see a Lumberry. His Sludge Wave kills the Grimmsnarl. Very, very good item prediction on Iger's part there. Iron Bundle comes in, probably to quick the silly Hydro Pump attack. We see Annihilate coming in as a sack, but he flip turns instead. So do we see a Rage Fist? Do we see a Drain Punch? We see a Vacuum Wave. What? Did you run a special attack EVs here, Iger? I gotta know, bro. I gotta know. What was that? What is this? Is it just to get off some residual? Because, I mean, residual damage is still pretty good, regardless, but... what? What? Anyway, that thing's gone. You see the Grafaiai still living strong. Belly Bolt comes on in. Belly Bolt the savior. Gunk Shot kills the Belly Bolt. Then we are down to our last 2 Mons, and Venus is... Why am I saying we? This isn't me. Venus is here with 3. Knucklestack is pretty low on health and also just lost its Violite, while the Iron Moth is still at a pretty decent HP, so long as it's not in against the Venusaur at a higher HP than... I don't think Venusaur lives anything, so never mind, I don't know where I was going with that. Iron Bundle, 408, definitely outsees the Iron Moth. So it could be very tricky for Iger. I think Venus has it in the bag so long as he can hit his Hydro Pumps. Recovers that HP, but, you know, Knucklestack is not as bulky as it once was without its Violite. We see a Gunk Shot taking it all the way back down to 32. Salt Cure, unless Knucklestack has a Protect, this Grafaiai is just going to be able to smack it again. We see a U-turn coming off, a super effective U-turn, killing the Knucklestack, and now it is Iron Moth versus the world. Iron Bundle is here versus Iron Moth. We see a flip turn coming off. Iron Moth living on 1 HP. The Venusaur comes in. We see an Agility coming off against the on the Iron Moth, which means this thing is likely 700 speed, if I'm doing the math correctly, which is faster than any one of these guys. I don't think that Grafaiai has... Nope, it has Toxic as its only Prankster attack. So... we see a Fiery Dance from the Venusaur, which gives the Iron Moth a +1 on special attack. We see a Sludge Wave on the Iron Bundle. And then we see a whatever the hell he wants to do against the Grafaiai, a Fiery Dance, and Iger wins the game. With his crackhead-ass sets of Vacuum Wave, this guy... Trick, Lagging Tail is actually pretty good. Volt Switching is fine. So really the only crackhead thing here is Vacuum Wave, but that was still very funny. And Iron Moth, 1%, all because Venus didn't want to try to hit a Hydro Pump, but instead went for a flip turn. Winning on a Hail Mary. Good work to these Midnight guys. On Midnight side for the leaderboard, we see Sai's Iron Valiant kicking it here at 13 kills with 1 death. Weavile from Smilham's side, 7 kills, 2 deaths. Iger's Iron Moth that we just saw. Wreck House with 6 kills and no deaths. Salamence from Lies of J getting in 6 and 2. And Venice's Drifblim, who did not make a dent this week unfortunately, but it might come back later with 5 and 0. For Midday, we have Ditto's Hisuian Arcanine with 8 and 1. Holy Macaroni's Primarina with 7 and 0. Stitch's crazy Heatran with 6 and 1. DR's Iron Bundle 6 and 1 as well. And Sound of Snow's crazy Icy Horse coming in at 5 and 1. And down in Dusk, we have Deadpool 619 Spectrier with 11 kills and 2 deaths. Jeremy's Gliscor 7 and 1. Mr. Ric Flair's Porygon Z rocking out with 7 and 1 as well. We have Egotistical Lekids, Terapagos coming in 7 and 1. All just tied, it looks like. Boaz, Tinglu with 6 and 0. I don't know if this is an offensive Tinglu or what, but it's here and it's killing it. On the standings, we have Iger with a 3 and 0. Somehow. With that 1% Iron Moth. Guy is kicked out on his top seed in 2 and 1 plus 8, which is still very good going into week 4. And then in third, we have our Midnight champion, Martin Vitran, 2 and 1 plus 5. On the Midday side of things, we have Holy Macaroni going at 3 and 0 as well, at plus 10 differential this time. Sound of Snow right behind him at 3 and 0 plus 9. And DR with a 3 and 0 plus 6 this week. We have in Dusk, Boaz, 22 with 3 and 0 plus 13, the best differential we have so far. Mr. Ric Flair right behind him at 3 and 0 plus 8. Really have to win that next match and hope Boaz doesn't do as well to jump him. And then we have Egotistical Elected 2-1 plus 5. Over here for the week 3 pick'ems, Midnight went down to 50% yet again, so maybe there was some upsets happening, maybe we weren't so confident with who was going to win, but 50 compared to 66 is honestly not that different. In Midday, we have jumped up to 58% of the community guessing the right matchup here to win, compared to the 41%. So a pretty big jump. And then in Dusk, we have a 50% just like Midnight compared to their 66, which is a very considerable downturn. It's the same as Midnight, but again, maybe some upsets. And yeah, that's that for the pick'ems. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Games of the Week. Week 3 in LBL. Week 4 is already planned out. I have my games planned out, just need to sit down and record and make the graphics and such, so I would not count on waiting as long for Week 4. Week 5 still has some time to go, and then Week 6 will be sometime after that, obviously. But that's where we're at. Like this video if you have not already. Subscribe if you want some more of this Game of the Week and other things that I've got on the channel that will be coming out. Hit that bell if you have not already to support me, please. With all that being said and more, this has been your boy, Snowy Kurama. See you in the next video. Goodbye.